Welcome, everyone. This is our second question and answer period with our Board of Directors of Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy. I'm Father Gregory Joyce, and I'm the rector of St. Vladimir Church in Dexter, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and that's where the academy is physically located. Some years ago, not too many years ago, but some years ago, we had a nice meeting with our parents, and they asked us about, could we have something like a parish school, a parish day school? And thank God, that original meeting has led with a lot of investment and time and talent to this place where we are today, where we have a school under construction, and we have a board of directors which is guiding and leading us here. So we're very glad that you're with us. If you're joining us and seeing us as a recording, that's great too. We're happy to have you, and we're always happy to answer your questions, whether it's here live or in some other fashion. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Irene Melibiotis, who is our vice chair of our board of directors.
Thank you, Father. So we'll start the PowerPoint presentation. We'll begin with a brief presentation that kind of goes into what classical education is, but very briefly, and then about the academy. It is a shorter presentation of a longer information session on the academy that you can access through our YouTube channel. So make sure that you subscribe and watch us there. And that'll provide you with the full length version of the presentation. So this is just that's it right there. This is just a brief introduction into that. So as we're getting that full screen, perfect. I want to thank everybody for their interest in Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy. It's a new Orthodox day school located in Dexter, Michigan, as Father Gregory was mentioning, just west of Ann Arbor. And it's currently the only Orthodox day school in Michigan, and we welcome all families to apply who wish to make the academy a part of their children's educational journey. And so this presentation is a shorter version, as I mentioned, so make sure you watch that. And we'll open the floor for questions upon the completion of the presentation. And you can also enter them into the dialogue chat box, and we can view them there, or you can ask them yourselves. All right, so we start with a quote by St. John Chrysostom that speaks to the important role of parents in the proper education of their children. St. John Chrysostom speaks to the serious undertaking involved in the education of our children in ways that foster within their hearts Christian virtue and piety. So he says, just want to go back to that slide. So having children is a matter of nature, but raising them and educating them in the virtues is a matter of mind and will. I'm speaking of educating children's hearts in virtue and piety, a sacred duty which cannot be transgressed. So it's in recognition of this important duty, the proper education of our children, that a community of families came together, as Father Gregory mentioned, came together from St. Vladimir Orthodox Church in Dexter, Michigan, to establish the academy, or at least the idea of it, and here we are today. So the Holy Fathers of the Church teach us that the purpose of education is not only to foster a child's intellect, but also to foster within themselves the spiritual discernment to use that intellect in ways that bear spiritual fruit and leads to their union with God. So what is classical education? I like giving this quote to illustrate what a classical education can afford a student. It draws a parallel with the known proverb of give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So one of the main aims of an education in the classical tradition is to cultivate within students the skills and tools that they'll need in order to be independent thinkers and leaders, characterized by wisdom and virtue, who have the ability to organize knowledge, to think logically and with reason, and to communicate with others in a manner that is persuasive. So there are many different ways to define classical education, but generally, let's say that it's a content-rich liberal arts education with a 2,500-year history, or at least that's where its origins come from, which has evolved over the years to encompass a Christ-centered goal of wisdom formation and virtue formation within students. So virtue formation involves first the understanding that what is true, good, and beautiful is noble. And based on this understanding, a classical education is about gaining the tools to be able to discover and love what is true, good, and beautiful. And so classical education involves the 7 liberal arts, which we see here, broken up into 2 stages. We have the trivium, which includes logic, grammar, and rhetoric. And the aim of studying the three arts of the trivium is mastery of language. And they are considered the classic language arts because the arts in this stage teach language skills. And in the quadrivium, we have, let's see, arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy, which leads to the mastery of science. That's the knowledge of how the universe is ordered and the attainment of academic skills. So whereas the trivium arts teach language skills, the quadrivium arts teach quantitative and mathematical skills. And I just want to go back to the trivium because we're going to be focusing a little bit more in this presentation on this stage, because in the lower elementary grades, these are the areas that we're going to be kind of focusing on for our pre-K to second grade curriculum that we're offering in our inaugural year. So in the logic or grammar stage, we should start off with, which is listed second, but that is the first of the three stages. Students grow in knowledge and learn to observe and remember. It involves the study of structure of language. And in the logic or dialectic stage, that's also how it's referred to, which is listed first here, but it's second in the three-stage process. Students grow in understanding and learn to think, reason, and analyze logically. And so this stage involves the study of structure and rules for rational thought. And in the rhetoric stage, the final of the three stages of the trivium, students grow in wisdom as they learn to apply their knowledge gained in the grammar stage and their understanding in ways that clearly and persuasively communicate to others. So this involves the study of the rules of persuasion. So classical education offers students many things, including the opportunity to explore the great books, because classical education values the opportunity to learn from primary sources, not from textbooks, which are secondary sources, as we know. The curriculum is integrated among topic areas so that the interconnected nature of all knowledge is made more apparent. Students in the classical education model learn through didactic instruction, which involves being presented with models for a topic of study and contemplating them together with the teacher. For example, to understand human history, which is in the classical education tradition taught chronologically and emphasizes all of human history, not a specific focal point. But if we were to look at or wanting to understand human history, we explore primary sources and biographies. And also students in the classical education model learn through the Socratic method as well. So it's essentially just through question asking, seeking truth. So for Orthodox Christians, as we are an Orthodox day school, offering a classical education is not enough to impart upon our children Orthodox Christian virtues. So we turn to the classical Christian education model for the basis upon which we can do this. And it's important that we cultivate the 7 Christian virtues while teaching our students and, and kind of fostering their intellect so that they come to know and love God, who's the creator of all. So it's equally, if not more important, to cultivate within students' souls, as it is to cultivate their minds. So only then can they appreciate the importance of using the knowledge that they've gained through education in ways that honor God in their lives. And one way that we do this, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, is by putting God in the center of all learning, whether it's through the trivium, which you can see on the right-hand side, or through the quadrivium subject areas that you see on the left-hand side. So Christ is the integral, unifying element. It's a Christ-centered education and relationship with that we seek with subjects, disciplines, and specifically also among students and others in our lifetime. So some differences that we can observe between the modern education model and that which is offered by the classical education tradition, and there are many, but we share here 3, and one which I'm going to refer to now is as it relates specifically to phonics. For example, in the modern education model, they emphasize creative interaction with words, such as through a look and say or whole language instruction model. Within the classical education model, however, phonics involves the mastery of units of sound. And just to give you an idea of what that might look like, we'll pull up a sample phonics lesson for kindergarten, first grade, which is the next slide. So So as we wait for Father Vladimir to pull that up. Oh, perfect. We'll get that up and running. So this is taken from the curriculum that we're going to be offering. So this is a sample of what the lesson will look like at our school. We don't have sound. Okay, so what the teacher, Michelle, is referring to here are the different sounds that all these letter sounds make.
A-I says A.
There we go.
A-Y says A. E with the macron says E. E blank E says E. E-E says E. E-A says E. I with the macron says I. I blank E says I. I-G-H says I. I-E says I. O with the macron says O. O blank E says O. O-A says O. O-E says O. U with macron says U. U blank E says U. Careful here. U-I says ooh. U-E says ooh. Good work.
Okay, we can stop it there for now, Father Vladimir.
Thank you. Right here.
So as we go back to the next slide. Oh, is that where we are at already? Just want to make sure we didn't skip a slide in between. Can you see if you can go back to the previous slide, Father? Oh, that was it. Okay. Well, a slide that I wanted to interject in here is another key difference between the modern education model and that which is offered by the classical education tradition is a focus on Latin. And some can argue that, you know, Latin's a dead language. Why do our students need to learn Latin? But the purpose of learning an ancient language such as Latin is not to become a professional translator of ancient texts or to work in a history department in a university. Rather, it's to you know, understand our own language much better, because how many of us realize that a large number of our English words come from Latin, actually ancient Greek. And so among the other benefits that are provided or afforded through, oh, and there it is, that's the slide, that's the one I was looking for. So one of the benefits afforded by learning an ancient language such as Latin or ancient Greek is to better understand one's comprehension in the English language and to increase their communication skills. So I will advance to the next slide, but and I believe we missed, I'm sorry that we're a bit out of order here, but okay, let's just go straight into the history. So now that we've done this very cursory overview of what classical education is, and again, I ask for those interested in a more kind of in-depth, you know, informative session to refer to our information session that we have posted on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, if you're interested in more on classical education. But let's go straight into the history of the school. So here's a timeline of how Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy came to be. So from its very beginnings in 2012, there were 3 key drivers to bring the project to life. And these were faith, family, and educational excellence. These were the key drivers that compelled a group of families to come together from St. Vladimir's Orthodox Church, located in Dexter, Michigan, as we've mentioned previously, to establish an education for their children with high standards and high morals, lived within the liturgical life of the Orthodox Church. So our vision is to be an Orthodox-centered, family-friendly school that offers Orthodox families and their children the very best that education has to offer them in Michigan. And in 2019, as you can see in this timeline, the board of directors were brought together, and since then have worked diligently to bring to life this mission. And here's just a digital rendering of the school building, and next to it is a recent picture of our school building in the process of being built. Just next slide, yeah, that's where it is. Okay, whenever you're ready to advance the next slide, these are your board of directors. And I'll take an opportunity to introduce myself and maybe hand it over to Father Gregory and then to Father Vladimir as well to introduce themselves. So over the past 15 years, I've had the pleasure of teaching in countries overseas, such as the United Kingdom, South Korea, Australia, and Canada. And my love of teaching has compelled me to pursue postgraduate studies in education. So I earned my PhD in education from the University of Western Ontario, which is in Canada. So aside from my commitment to the board of directors for Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy, I'm also a full-time homemaker with 2 young children. And when my time permits, I do enjoy reading a good book on nonfiction and things related to our faith specifically. And I do enjoy as well matters related to health and gardening. So I'll hand it off to Father Gregory to provide a brief introduction about himself.
My name is Father Gregory Joyce. As I mentioned previously, I'm the rector of St. Vladimir Church in Dexter, Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm also the dean of the Pastoral School of the Diocese of Chicago in Mid-America and the secretary of the Diocesan Council. As well, I have completed my bachelor's and master's at University of Michigan and also have a doctorate in ministry from Pittsburgh Theological Seminary through the Antiochian House of Studies. I've been the rector at St. Vladimir's for almost 25 years now. And I also like to read. I'd like to have more time to read, but that's not what this presentation is about. I like to read.
All right, Father Vladimir.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vadim Porozhenko, and I'm also Deacon Vladimir. I'm serving at St. Vladimir Parish, where Father Gregory is the rector. And I have a family. My wife is the church director at the same parish, St. Vladimir, and we have 5 children. The oldest is 23, and the youngest is 2.5. And I hope that our youngest will have a chance to go to this school. Also, I have a PhD in public administration, and that's why I'm involved as a board member. And I'm teaching at University of Michigan Dearborn graduate program, Masters of Public Administration Policy program. I'm happy to be a board member, and I see lots of potential in classical education and in our school in particular, because it's pretty unique in Michigan. Thank you very much, and welcome everyone.
Okay, so and Mark is connecting with us, so why don't we give Mark a chance to also introduce himself. So sorry, we're just throwing you in there, but do you want to say a few words about yourself, Mark?
Sure. My name is Mark Chafee. I'm the secretary to the board. My interest in the school, I guess, is based on the fact that I would like to see a kind of form of education that is interested in inculcating virtue as well as just raw knowledge. I've worked in the University of Michigan Library for the past 30+ years, so I have a lot of experience, at least with that level of education. I have 2 master's degrees. One is in classical archaeology, so I've actually studied Greek and Latin, so I can speak firsthand to how valuable a tool those languages are for organizing, for teaching you the disciplined acquisition of knowledge and organizing your mind. So I think that also is that's led me to value this form of education.
Thank you so much. So let's get the PowerPoint back on. We just have a few more slides before finishing. So on to the next slide, we have the Academy's mission statement, which is not there. I don't know how the slides went back like that. I apologize that they're a bit out of order. I don't know how that happened. The Academy's mission statement aligns with the purpose of education from an Orthodox Christian perspective that we spoke about earlier. So the Academy strives to provide a classical education in an Orthodox Christian environment, allowing our students to grow to their full human and spiritual potential with the ability to engage society as mature followers of Jesus Christ. The Lord has allowed us to live in this time and place because this time and place is the most effective time and place in history for our salvation. As Christians have always been from the beginning, we are called to sanctify our place of struggle, and our Academy aims to help our society meet this divine challenge. Thank you, Father, for accommodating the out of order slides. Perfect. Yeah. So our Academy offers a classical curriculum, as we mentioned, that is Christ-centered. And it's taught by Orthodox Christian teachers in a low teacher to student ratio, enabling us to offer individualized attention to students and in partnership with parents, because that's a key element to a successful education, is having parents be involved in the process as well. So we need parents that appreciate the importance of the Academy's mission and want a Christ-centered traditional education for their children. So for our inaugural year of 2021-2022, we are offering 5-day educational programs for pre-K to second grade students, and we wish to add 1 grade level per year thereafter. And of particular note about the school building that we're building currently for the Academy, we're committed to creating a school environment that limits the emission of electromagnetic frequencies, also known as EMFs. So we not only want to nourish our students' minds, spirits, and souls, but also do our part in supporting their physical well-being by limiting their exposure to EMFs. And for those wishing after the fact to learn more about the importance of lowering EMFs in schools, feel free to visit techsafeschools.org or wifiinschools.com. So the curriculum is a cohesive one, wherein the 12th grade curriculum is designed first and the kindergarten curriculum is designed last, so that way students foundational the mastery of these foundational skills is taught within early grades, as well as fostering students' acquisition of the necessary skills and tools that they'll need to support their steady progress towards 12th grade. So through repetition and drills to facilitate recall, especially in the lower grades, as well as chants and songs to support memorization and information in the grammar stage, the curriculum in those lower elementary grades focuses on phonics instruction and offers Latin instruction starting in 2nd grade. Ancient Greek is taught in later grades. And learning about subjects such as science, history, geography is done through a carefully curated selection of stories and teacher-led discussions. And students are taught to write in cursive, which is somewhat of a lost art in our day and age of digital communication. And they're also encouraged to write in cursive for all assignments as they're able to. So writing in cursive helps to develop their discipline, their eye for precision and detail, and fosters their love of beauty. The curriculum is developed and tested at the Highlands Latin School in Kentucky, and its students in the elementary and secondary grades consistently outperform their peers on nationwide standardized tests. Here's what a typical school day at Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy looks like. So we go through morning and afternoon prayer. So prayer is central to our educational experience at the school. We read the lives of the saints of that day. Bible readings from the Old and New Testament are also incorporated in our daily educational routine. There's recitations, whether it's in English grammar or Latin, starting from 2nd grade. Lessons focused on various areas such as language arts, mathematics, science, poetry, history, geography, cultural studies, and fine arts. As we said, Latin starts in 2nd grade, and other languages are added in later years. And church attendance is required on feast days. And the availability of preschool or after-school paid programs is based on demand. So because we believe in the importance of making such an educational opportunity financially accessible to all families that wish it for their children, the Academy welcomes students from all backgrounds. So tuition is set at $12,000 per year, and all families are welcome to apply for tuition assistance as needed. As with other non-public schools, tuition alone does not cover the cost of keeping the school doors open. So to facilitate the school's long-term sustainability, because we want to be around for our children and their grandchildren, Academy families are asked to provide their support in two additional ways. One way is by committing to offer 20 volunteer hours per trimester. Volunteer duties may include things like assisting with supervision on field trips, assisting teachers in their classrooms, providing basic administrative support, assisting with the beautification and maintenance of the school grounds. For families that are unable to provide their support through volunteer hours, there is the option to contribute a tax-deductible donation of $1,000 per trimester, or to offer a combination of volunteer hours and a donation amount that equals to about that amount if per trimester. So another way to support the Academy is through each family's active involvement in fundraising efforts. And so these initiatives are in place not only to financially sustain the operation of the school, but to also support and foster positive relationships amongst all members of the school community, because we see it as a school family. So just a date to keep in mind, enrollment begins on, or opens, I should say, on Tuesday, March the 30th. Please join our listserv by emailing us at info@a2oca.org so that you can be kept informed on enrollment information. So thank you for your time and consideration, and we look forward to the opportunity to work with you, each of you, to support your child's educational journey in the classical education tradition and within the Orthodox Christian life. If you have any comments or questions, we would be happy to address them now or hear from you by emailing us at info@A2OCA, or you can connect with us through our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, through our website. And at this point, we welcome questions if you have some to ask. And I have here a list of frequently asked questions, as well as questions from parents who are unable to attend but wish to hear the answer to, which we will address in this session. So I shall begin, but if there are any questions that we can address in between, please do make your questions known. Okay. So why don't actually, you know what we'll do? We'll start with the 4 misconceptions of classical education. I think those are interesting. Father, if you can go back to the PowerPoint, I added those in the end, but I think they're worth considering. So, right, so at the very end, so there's 4 misconceptions, and there are many more, but the 4 main ones, and I referenced the Ambrose, it's Ambrose Media Store, but I believe it's the school that offers this information. But it says here, misconception 1, classical education was fine back then, but we need a modern education for modern world. So the response to this is, classical education teaches students facts, provides them with the logical tools to use those facts, and perfects the student's ability to relate those facts to others. And this is a fundamental skill set in our modern day and age. So the modern education system, whereas they support teaching facts and some skills, what the classical education model does differently is help students draw original, creative, and accurate conclusions from facts, and then formulate those conclusions into logical and persuasive arguments. So let's go into misconception number 2. My child is not intelligent enough to attend a classical school. The response to this is students vary in intelligence from exceptionally intelligent to below average. Many parents assume that a classical education is only accessible to gifted children. In fact, all children benefit greatly from the classical method. Many parents observe the classroom and curriculum and assume that children are abnormally bright just by the way that they respond to lesson material and to their teachers' questions. But in reality, classical education challenges children and is uniquely able to leverage their natural abilities during their different stages of childhood. Third misconception we have to share with you is classical education is too extreme. The response to that is classical education was the norm just merely 100 years ago because it worked. Conventional education has taken an experimental approach to educating our children over the past 4 decades. So many will probably notice that there's many different methods that have been tried and later scrapped because they failed. So, but the classical education tradition provides a basic structure upon which we can build effective, successful students. And we're not advocating an experiment, but rather we're seeking a return to a system proven effective for over 1,000 years. And beyond that, that's where its origins I would say, extend to. So beyond that. So misconception number 4 is classical education is unnecessarily difficult or harsh. The response to this is that children enjoy learning. The excitement of children learning Latin, for instance, grows as they become able to describe the world in a language that most adults do not understand. So classical schools maintain order in the classroom, and we encourage extensive interaction between students and teachers. Students are not allowed to be disruptive in the classroom, but they're constantly encouraged to offer observations, ask questions, interact, and make comments. The classical method encourages and succeeds at creating a stimulating and enjoyable learning environment for all students. All right, so just wanted to address those in case those are one of the misconceptions that you might have. And we continue on. If there are no questions for us at this moment, we'll continue on with some of the frequently asked questions. Will our classes be hybrid or in person? So first, we clarify that a hybrid model refers to a combining of online instruction and in-person instruction. Although we're looking into the feasibility of implementing such a model that combines online and in-person instruction, it may not be available for the 2021-2022 year, but we do encourage you to sign up to be on our listserv, because any new information or events that are happening about the school will always be communicated to those on our listserv. And we welcome students for in-person instruction coming in 2021, because we know for certain that that will be happening with any appropriate measures in place at that time. All right, shall I continue? Are there any questions even from the board members? Okay. Will there be the option of half-time instruction for pre-K? This is a question we get frequently. So we are actively seeking the interest of parents on which instructional model or models work for their families as it pertains to pre-K, as educating their children in that particular grade level, so that we can keep their parents' interests in mind as we decide which model of instruction to offer. So for the time being, please let us know what works for you by emailing us at info@a2oca.org. So the models to consider at this point in time for pre-K is full-time instruction 5 days a week, half-day instruction 5 days a week, but selecting consistently for morning instruction, half-day instruction for 5 days a week, but afternoon instruction, and then full-day instruction, but every other day. So alternating on a 10-day schedule with another class that's also opting for the same opportunity. All right. I don't know if there's a question from one of our registrants. I'd be very happy to address that, or one of our board members to address that. Let's continue on. Is the Academy open to non-Orthodox children for enrollment? Yes, it is. We note that the Orthodox faith is interwoven throughout all aspects of the curriculum, and we welcome all families who wish for their children to be exposed to this type of education to apply to enroll in the school. All right, will there be a tuition discount for multiple children? There will be, and please do sign up for our listserv, and maybe even email us directly for more information about what this tuition discount will look like for your family's situation. Does a classical education curriculum support the learning of students with learning needs? For students with learning differences, admission is on a case-by-case situation, but generally we offer a curriculum that's in the classical education tradition, designed to better support their learning needs. And an assessment is conducted prior to entry into the school to identify students' readiness for the classical education curriculum. Do we have a question? Okay, we'll continue on. If you do, just feel free to interrupt. Okay. What's the benefit of the grammar stage emphasis of rote memorization? And I apologize if you're hearing my daughter in the background. I don't know if you can at all, but she is seeking my attention. Okay.
I thought that was a recitation.
No, yeah, but yeah, she's getting ready for school. This is up her alley. All right, so let me repeat the question. So what is the benefit of the grammar stage emphasis on rote memorization of information? So speaking from a teacher who's been educated in the modern education system of doing things, and we're always taught to kind of move away from rote memorization, repetition, drills. I want to kind of bring to the forefront the importance of understanding how sophisticated and complex of an endeavor it is to undertake language learning. So the activities that will allow children to store complete, reliably correct, and sophisticated language patterns in their minds involves listening, being read to aloud, and memorization. These are the two, perhaps the most traditional of all language acquisition activities that children are really good at in the early elementary grades. And that's when we take advantage of that propensity to offer this information to them, because they absorb it like a sponge. So, and Father, I know you had a great comment earlier. Can I get you to offer that comment before?
Yes,
like how you
I'm
did
happy to
before?
say that. You know, as a seminary instructor and someone who's part of my work is to help prepare the next generation of clergy, I can tell you how important it is to be able to memorize. It's very important for the clergy to be able to memorize so that they can do their work, especially around the divine services. We struggle with that a lot. So the more that we can help people prepare for that important task, the better.
Yeah, and I want to add to that in terms of the firsthand experience of parents where their children are undertaking a classical education tradition, whereas they might have not had that opportunity growing up. They've noticed that even if they had a bit of apprehension in the beginning of like, oh, really, they have to memorize this stuff, what they realize at the end of the process of memorizing, whether it's a poem that's lengthy or a speech like the Gettysburg Address, what they realize is at the end of the process, their children have this sense of accomplishment. And of course, within the Orthodox perspective, we do it with piety and humbleness, but this sense of, I can do this. This is not beyond my level. And then they use this information later on. They reflect upon it in the logic and rhetoric stages of their education. And they're able to draw upon that information to further their studies in those areas. So. All right, so let's continue on if there are no questions. What is the purpose of learning ancient languages such as Latin? So we briefly talked about this in the presentation, and I go into a little bit more in the information session if you wish to watch that on our YouTube channel. But Latin is a language that lives on today in almost all major Western languages, including English. So over 50% of English vocabulary words come from Latin. So training in Latin not only gives students a better understanding of the roots of English vocabulary, but it also lays the foundation for learning other Latin-based languages. And that involves, let me see if I could recall, because I deleted the list here, but Spanish, French, Romanian. Feel free to chime in here. Sorry?
Italian, Portuguese.
Thank you. Italian and Portuguese. I think that rounds up the list. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for filling that in. So, and not only that, but Latin learning also complements a student's efforts to engage in the habits of mind that are required to succeed in the logic and rhetoric stages of the trivium, which follow the grammar stage. So in the grammar stage, we introduce Latin, and in later grades, they get more sophisticated understanding of Latin, but just starting it at such an early age, in second grade in particular, provides them that habit of mind. So just like learning of mathematical principles teaches accuracy and logic, the learning of Latin requires attention to detail, accuracy, precision, and patience, and thus teaches the student these concepts that relate to logic, order, discipline, and structure. So Latin learning offers quite a bit of benefits, and which is why it's a core element of a classical. And some would argue you couldn't possibly call yourself a classical school if you do not even offer Latin instruction. So some would argue it's not a closed case on that, but many would argue that. So is the study of literature, worldly wisdom, and philosophy appropriate within the Orthodox Christian context? To answer this question, we should answer the following. So does studying this material lead to the acquisition of the Holy Spirit, also referred to deification or theosis? Does it lead to the path of purification of the passions? Does it lead to the illumination of God? And if our answer to these questions is yes, then the study of these materials as Orthodox Christians is appropriate. And you can always provide students opportunities for these, the acquisition of the Holy Spirit, the path to purification, and illumination of God through the materials that we teach through the Orthodox Christian perspective. So, and we have one more question that we can address here, and then if there are any others that we can address from anybody else, we would do that afterwards. So so how is receiving a classical education helpful and useful for a student's future? A classical education offers students one of the best preparations for life, while the modern education system is focused on providing students with a vocational training that's training to do certain things well, such as mastering debits and credits in order to be an accountant. The classical education tradition provides students a set of academic skills referred to as the liberal arts, and not only that, but a body of cultural knowledge referred to as Western civilization. And the combination of these prepares students for anything that they wish to pursue in their lifetime. So with that, I welcome any questions that we can address here.
Yeah, I'm Subdeacon James. I serve under Father Gregory. I think you did a wonderful presentation there, and I really support this initiative. And I think you kind of answered my questions, but which were mainly the price point for it, and of course the grade levels. Most of my children are. I have one child in second grade right now. All of my children are older than that, apart from her. It's my impression that most of our parish is in that situation. Most of our children are above the grade, are above grade 2.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we had the wherewithal to afford the price point for it, which is worth it. Even if we had the wherewithal to do that, our children really couldn't attend the school. My question is, how fast do you think you could add grade levels to the school? Let's assume it's very successful right off the bat, and I pray to God that it is. If we're adding, say, a grade level per year, the reality is most of the children in our parish simply could never afford themselves to, simply wouldn't have the opportunity to do this education. And that, I mean, I think that's the reality that most of the families in our parish face. So, I mean, you have more experience in this than I do. How fast could you add additional grade levels to the school? You think it's realistic to just shoot for 1? Is it possible to do 2? What do you think about that?
Father, do you want to address that? I could go
Sure.
after you if you wish.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I can address that. So, James, the reality of the situation is that the one teacher will be teaching first and second grade. So if we can add another teacher the next year, then we would have third and fourth.
Third and
So
fourth. Okay.
yeah, so I think that we could catch up to a decent number of the kids. You know, some of the kids are just, you know, they're already almost entering high school, and so I don't think we'll catch them. But I think that we could catch a lot of the elementary kids, and so I think that that's not an unrealistic thing. I don't think adding more than 2 grades a year is probably practical, unless we have a real big demand for those age groups, in which case we would do it. I mean, it's not a question of like, well, we're not ready for 6th grade, even though we have 15 6th graders. Of course, we'll do 6th grade. That's not an issue. So a lot of that is driven by demand, but the sort of logical slope of growth would mean probably 2 grades a year would be the maximum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that that's the plan that we've discussed. But you know, another consideration, and I'm throwing it out there, but say we get 7 students that come to us and say, we're in 3rd grade, can we enter this September? The answer would be yes. We would provide that opportunity. But if there's only 1, I mean, I don't want to say that it's out of the question. We could combine classes, but you can see how having 1 student in just 1 grade being taught by 1 teacher is not feasible. It's like, you know, sustainable.
Yeah.
So if there is enough interest, we want to provide that to our families. We want to. So it's a matter of seeking out the families that wish for it, and then we'll see how many students we have that are interested and what teachers we need to hire in order to deliver this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So if you are interested, Father, Father Gregory?
Father
So
Gregory?
can we,
Yes.
yes, can we just say if parents are interested and their child is going to be entering third grade in September, can we ask them to make themselves known to us so we see how
Yeah.
many
I'm
parents
actually
are
taking a
interested?
note now. I think that we need to
Yeah.
make that clear, that, you know, it's going to be driven in
By demand.
some part by demand,
Yeah.
right? If we get a bunch of 12th graders, I'm not sure what we're going to do. But you know,
No, but in the
if we get
elementary
a bunch
grades,
of third
yeah.
and fourth age kids,
Mhm.
of course, that would work just fine. We'll have the facilities. We should do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, good question. Thank you for bringing that up. Great. Any other questions that we can address now? Okay, so that kind of sums up the questions that we've been asked time and time again from parents that have been emailed to us. So I know we said we'd be going until 8:30, but I suppose with no other questions, perhaps we've come to the conclusion of our Q&A. Father, did you want to add something?
Well, just give me 1 second to check Facebook, okay?
Oh, yes,
Because
please.
I was
Yes, of
more
course.
involved in the
We don't want
conversation.
to, yeah, absolutely.
See
We
if
do
anybody
have,
has.
right, we do have an invitation for people to ask their questions through Facebook, so please do that.
And we encourage people, if you're seeing this now and it's more convenient for you to ask a question on Facebook, go ahead and do that. I mean, we'd like you to email us at info@A2OCA.org. That would be great. But if for some reason
Absolutely.
it's easier for you to post a question on Facebook or even Instagram, please do that.
Right. Yes, please
I
do
didn't
keep the
see
questions
any
coming.
additional
Okay.
questions there.
Okay, excellent. So please do keep the questions coming. We thank you, everybody who's watching this, for your interest. We're here to support you and your families. We'll do what we can to make that happen. And we appreciate your support in this initiative. We feel that this might be, God willing, the start to many Orthodox day schools in Michigan, and hopefully within the classical education tradition, to really foster that incredible education that our students so deserve. So thank you. And again, please sign up for our listserv. We have our YouTube channel. Please make sure that you subscribe to it so you can be notified of any new content. And we are currently developing further our website, so stay tuned for that. And thank you again for your interest in Ann Arbor Orthodox Classical Academy. God bless.
Thank you, everyone.